Ladies and gentlemen, this was not a defeat. This was a declaration. Forget the scoreline for a moment. Forget the two sets that slipped away on a humid June afternoon in Germany. Because what unfolded on the grass at the Bad Homburg Open was not the story of a young woman who lost a tennis match. It was the story of a 21-year-old from the Philippines who walked onto one of the most demanding surfaces in the sport, stared down a seasoned former top 20 warrior, and refused our point after point, break point after break point, to be anything less than dangerous. The final read 3-6, 3-6 in favor of Elise Mertens. But numbers, as you are about to learn, can lie. And tonight they lie loudly. To understand why this match mattered, you must understand where Alexandra Eala stood when she stepped onto that court. This was a player riding the single greatest wave of momentum in Philippine tennis history. Just days earlier in Berlin, she had done the unthinkable. Eala's remarkable run at the Berlin Open showed no signs of slowing down as the Filipina wildcard defeated Ukraine's Elena Svitolina 6-3, 6-4 to book a place in her first WTA 500 semifinal, and that was not even the centerpiece. Fresh off one of the biggest upsets of her career against world number 2 Elena Rybakina in the round of 16, Eala once again rose to the occasion on the grass courts of the Steffi Graf Stadion. Back-to-back nights, back-to-back giants, a wild card tearing through the establishment like she had nothing to lose and everything to prove. That run came on the heels of history written elsewhere. Eala won her second WTA 125 title with victory over Nicola Bartunkova in the Birmingham Open final, coming back from a set down to prevail 5-7, 6-3, 7-5 for her first triumph since winning the Guadalajara Open the previous year. Grass, a surface that has humbled prodigies for generations, had become her hunting ground. The win highlighted Eala's growing confidence on grass courts this season. After capturing the WTA 125 title in Birmingham earlier this month, she compiled an outstanding 9-1 record on the surface. So when she arrived in Bad Homburg, she did not arrive as an underdog hoping to survive. She arrived as a force. Eala headed to the Bad Homburg Open as the 27th seed, and waiting for her was the one opponent who had always found a way to stop her cold. Elise Mertens is not a name that trends. She is the name that wins. The Belgian is the archetype of the modern professional grinder, relentless, surgical, and utterly allergic to error. Mertens brings plenty of experience and consistency. She moves well, competes relentlessly, and has built a career on making opponents earn every single point. Even when she's under pressure, she rarely lets matches slip away easily. And against Eala specifically, she had been a wall. Mertens held a 2-0 head-to-head advantage over Eala. The Belgian won their first meeting at Monastir in 2023 before defeating the Filipina again at the Madrid Open earlier this year. That Madrid meeting was no contest. The Belgians swept Eala 6-2, 6-1 in their most recent meeting at the 2026 WTA Madrid. This then was not just a third-round match. This was a reckoning. This was Eala's chance to slay the one ghost that her glittering season had failed to bury, to prove that the player who toppled Rybakina and Svitolina could finally solve the riddle named Mertens. Here is where the story refuses to be simple. Because the scoreline, 3-6, 3-6 suggests a comfortable Belgian afternoon. It suggests control. It suggests distance. And it is wrong. Begin with the serve, the foundation of everything. Eala delivered first serves at a 72% clip, an elite championship grade number on grass, the kind of figure that wins matches far more often than it loses them. 72%. Read that again. On a surface where the serve is king, Eala was a monarch in waiting. She was not broken because she served poorly. She was broken because, on the biggest points, Mertens was simply unmovable. And then there is the statistic that defines this entire match, the statistic that tells you everything about the cruelty of tennis and the resolve of this young woman. 4 break points converted out of 9. 9 break point opportunities. 9 moments where Eala had her experience experienced opponent on the ropes, 9 chances to seize the rope and pull. She took 4. And on grass, against a player of Mertens's poise, generating 9 break chances at all is not the mark of someone being outclassed. It is the mark of someone knocking again and again on a door that simply would not open in time. This was the agony hidden inside the scoreline. This was not a player who was overwhelmed. This was a player who manufactured pressure, who earned her chances, who forced Mertens into corner after corner, and then watched the margins, those razor-thin grass court margins, fall on the wrong side of the line. 5 break points squandered, 5 doors left ajar. In tennis, that is the difference between 3-6 and 6-4. That is the difference between a loss and a legend-making upset. The gap between Eala and victory tonight was not talent. It was timing. Watch how Eala played, and you see a blueprint of a player who belongs. Eala has spent the past year proving that she belongs at this level. The left-hander plays with confidence, takes the ball early, and isn't afraid to trust her instincts against more experienced opponents. There is a calmness to her game that stands out, especially in pressure moments. That left-handed angle, the great equalizer, pulled Mertens off the court, opening the geometry of the grass the way a chess master opens a board. Eala likes to dictate with her angles and aggressive shot-making, while Mertens thrives when rallies become physical and tactical. And there, in that single sentence, lies the entire war. Eala wanted to strike first, to end points, to play on her terms. Mertens wanted to extend, to drag, to turn every exchange into an examination. For long stretches, Eala won that battle. Her 72% first serve rate let her start points on the front foot. Her flat, early struck backhand pushed Mertens behind the baseline, but Mertens, the relentless tactician, kept turning the rallies physical, kept resetting, kept absorbing, and on the points that mattered most, she made Eala play one more ball, the ball that more often than not found the net or sailed long. Let us speak plainly about courage. Down a set against an opponent who had beaten her twice and never dropped a set in the process, Eala did not fold. She did not surrender to the narrative. She generated break points in the second set. She kept attacking. She kept her first serve percentage high when most players, sensing the match drifting away, abandoned the risk and shrink. Eala did not shrink. She swung. This is the same competitor who, just days before, refused to be intimidated by greatness. Eala has looked increasingly comfortable embracing these occasions. She seems willing to back her game no matter the opponent, and that belief could prove invaluable against someone as seasoned as Mertens. That belief did not waver tonight. The body of work on those 9 breakpoints, the willingness to keep creating, keep hunting, keep believing the door would open, is the signature of a player whose ceiling has not yet been glimpsed. But a true documentary does not flatter. It tells the truth. And the truth is this: the second serve remains the unfinished chapter in Alexandra Eala's story. We saw it across her grass campaign, even in triumph, the cracks. In 4 matches in Berlin, Eala won 68.1% of her first serves, saved 60% of break points, and converted 48.1% of breakpoint chances. Those are strong numbers, but behind a dominant first serve often hides a vulnerable second. And against a returner as opportunistic as Mertens, the second ball became a feeding ground. When that first serve missed, the second invited Mertens forward, invited her to step in and dictate, invited her to flip the very pressure Eala had worked so hard to build. 5 breakpoints lost out of 9 is not only a story of bad luck, it is also a story of second serves that did not hold up under the weight of the moment. This is the frontier, this is the work. Master the second serve, add that final layer of armor, and the margins that betrayed her tonight begin to fall the other way. The difference between contender and champion is often measured in the few feet behind a missed first serve. So what does a 3-6 loss truly mean? On the surface, it means an early Bad Homburg exit, but step back and the trajectory is breathtaking. This is a player who has rewritten what is possible for an entire nation. Following her Miami 2025 results, she made history by becoming the first player from the Philippines to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal and the first to enter the WTA World Top 100 ranking. A player whose results now read like a highlight reel of the elite. Eala arrived in Bad Homburg in good form after reaching the semifinals of the Berlin Open Open, where her run was ended by Linda Noskova. The Filipina has also enjoyed deep runs at several tournaments this year, reaching the semifinals of the ASB Classic and the quarterfinals of the Abu Dhabi Open and Dubai Tennis Championships. And the timing of this campaign could not be more significant. Her strong performances in Berlin arrive at the perfect time, with Wimbledon set to begin on June 29th. The grandest grass stage of them all looms, and Eala steps toward it not as a curiosity, but as a genuine threat, armed with one of the finest grass court records on tour this season. Even in Bad Homburg, the stature of her presence was unmistakable. Eala also competed in doubles, teaming up with tennis legend Venus Williams. Read that name again, Venus Williams. The torch is quite literally being passed across the net. To the rest of the tour. The message from this loss is more chilling than any victory could deliver. Alexandra Eala lost, and she still looked like the future. She lost, and she still generated 9 break points against a former top 20 stalwart. She lost, and her first serve percentage was a pristine 72. When a player loses this well, the rest of the locker room should be afraid of how she wins. This was not a collapse. This was a lesson absorbed. This was not a ceiling reached. This was a floor being raised. This was not the end of a Cinderella story. This was the moment Cinderella stopped needing the glass slipper because she had already proven she could run the race barefoot. Mertens won the match. Let it be recorded honestly, but Eala won something the scoreboard cannot measure. The certainty now beyond all doubt that the gap between her and the sports establishment is no longer a chasm. It is a margin, a few break points, a second serve, a handful of feet, and margins close. Margins always close for those willing to keep knocking on the door, point after point, season after season, until the door doesn't just open, until it comes off its hinges entirely. She is 21 years old. She has already beaten the world number 2 on grass. She has already carried a flag where no flag had ever flown, and she has already shown in a defeat of all things that her worst days now look like most players' best. So remember this match, not for the result. Remember it for the warning it contained. Remember it for the 72%, for the 9 break points, for the refusal to fold. Remember it as the night a loss said more about a champion's future than 100 easy wins ever could. This is not the end. This is the beginning.